Good morning and welcome to the original Loretta Brown Show, radio to open the heart. So, anyway, take heart about this full moon, by the way. It's one of the softest moons we've seen in a while. We're coming out of the powerful energy of the Lion's Gate, which has just been roaring all month. So, this beautiful full moon is going to just kind of soften things up. It's going to help us connect to the bigger picture of ourselves. And Jupiter, the lucky star, I sometimes call Jupiter, the planet of expansion, is very active at the time of this full moon, and it can bring abundance, prosperity, and even good luck. But it can also shine a bright spotlight on issues that need addressing in our life. So trust whatever comes up. And then shortly after this full moon, the sun will leave the fiery, bold zodiac of Leo and enter the earthy zodiac of Virgo. Virgo represents independence, inner strength, and the knowing that we are made of source energy. In this context, the word virgin is a symbol of wholeness. Our innate and true state of being is already whole, and we're the universe in a human shell. We are the entire ocean in a drop of water, and it's the energy that Virgo brings that can remind us of this. Virgo is very resourceful, and its gifts lie in making the best out of everything. Its independence and inner strength can teach us that not only can we fill our own cup, but we can also find practical ways to ensure that it never runs dry. Wow. We can take all the fiery energy of Leo and integrate it deeper and use it as fuel for self-care, boosting our productivity, finding our independence, and knowing everything we need is really always within. And as we all know, sometimes it's hard to access that. So as we approach Virgo, as we approach the equinox, we may be able to look back on the journey we've traveled and start to see how we can make the best of wherever we have landed. And I can't think of a better segue to bring my guest into the show today, because we're talking about how to take whatever's going on, how to take obstacles and turn them into opportunities. My guest today is Carl David Blake. He has been known to be a college professor. There's rumors. He is a filmmaker and producer of 6 films, at least, right? And they're excellent, by the way. I peeked into them. He has written a college English textbook, which I just am like, who does that? And he's also a co-author with Amit Goswami, PhD, and Gary Stewart of the book Quantum Activation, Transforming Obstacles into Opportunities. Carl was born in the Bronx, New York. He has degrees in biology, zoology, and mass communication. He's very pragmatic in his earthly approach. Great, just before Virgo to have you here, to the current problems that plague mankind. And he's also a Guinness World Record holder for the longest wedding dress train. I love that, which he used during the filming of the movie Differences Between Men and Women. Welcome to the show, Carl
Thank
David
you.
Blake.
Hey, thank you
Look,
so much. Thank you so much. Yes, I recognize that book.
do you now? Because
Yes. Hold that up. Hold that up.
there's your picture right on the back with some
Yeah.
other wonderful greatness. And for those on YouTube, this is the book Quantum Activation. And my goodness, this book is so timely. Um, it's so timely. Yeah. So
Yeah.
go ahead. Yeah.
Well, the book actually emerged out of an opportunity because what happened, where the idea came from was I still am putting together this documentary on the capacity of the human brain. I've got all these scientists around the world. We were ready to, start getting funding, and then COVID hit and knocked everybody for a loop. And we were actually toying around with the idea of the book. We had notes, and we met a few times, and we were going to do it after the movie. And then when COVID hit, I'm like, let's do it now. So we used that opportunity. So it was really a very pragmatic book, and we had a lot of different ideas that we were running by each other. And it got really deep into education. It got deep into spirituality. It just got deep into a lot of different areas. So it went through many iterations. And like I said, the opportunity when everybody was like panicking, I'm like, this is really good that I can get this book done. So, we got together, Dr. Mikaswamy, who's, good friends with Deepak Chopra, and, we got the quote on the front. Amit is a dear friend of mine, and I ran some ideas by him, and he just loved it. He was actually the first person who wanted to be on the movie too. When I was chatting with him about different energy levels, he was like, "Hey, come on up here to Eugene, Oregon, and let's meet." I'm like, "Sure." I've never been up there, so we hung out, and we just became like best buddies, like that moment. So we talking about running a lot of different ideas, because right now I'm working on my next book. So
I love that. I've met Amit, and he is just the dearest man. And I've had him on the show quite a few times, but he's also super brilliant. And it blows me away. Like he'll start talking, and you're just like, right? It's crazy. Um, can you explain to the listening audience what is quantum activation? What does the title mean? What is that?
we're using quantum principles. One of the things about Amit, Dr. Goswami, and a lot of people when they're listening, they don't know the difference a lot of times between the real science and the quantum. The quantum is essentially the kind of microscopic version of physics. You get so as we go deep, you could go deeper one way out there in the universe, and you go just as deep microscopically, and the universe it's almost like a reflection of each other. It's really weird. So quantum activation is to use these quantum principles not to separate the spiritual from the science. And people think they're opposed. And I said, they're not opposed. They support each other. Here's what I tell everybody. In the spiritual side, the spiritual creative side, we're the ones who come up with all the ideas. Once it becomes science, they take it, they move it over to the science. That's why spirituality always looks like it's lagging behind, because every time science proves it, they grab it and take it as their own. For example, there was that one Chinese art of healing where you put needles into somebody, acupuncture. 50 years ago, that was woo-woo crazy stuff. Now, some insurance companies cover it, right? So it was woo-woo crazy. Now it's normalized. Also, you're going to see that happening with Reiki. I'm telling you, listen to me right now. In 10 years, Reiki, 10, 15 years, Reiki is going to be where massage was about 10 years ago, 20 years ago. People don't really know about it. I didn't know about it until I did the movie. And when I went to some Reiki mass, I'm like, wow, this works. What is this? You also have to go to a practitioner who is certified in that. But that's the great divide is spirituality and creativity have the answers that haven't been proven yet by science. That's why it always seems like it lags, but does not lag behind.
Oh, I like what
grab those together. We need to grab it together. They're both sides of that same coin, and they support each other. Most scientists are not atheists. That's what people think. Oh, you're going to science. I'll say it again. Most scientists are not atheists.
Wow, I love everything that you said. I want to go out and pull out a couple of points, because obviously I run Reiki Oasis, so I've done Reiki for almost 30 years, and I'm here to tell you that 30 years ago, even as recently as now, people will say, "What do you do? What is that?" Right? And I agree with you. I think that it's becoming more mainstream. More and more people are understanding about energy and vibration and frequency, what is going on with us at all levels. And yeah, I'm thrilled when people want to get into these things, because I really do believe it is, quote unquote, the medicine of the future, as well as the sound healing, right? Yeah. And by the way, that's very scientific. I also love what you said about science and spirituality. figuring this out, how to go hand in hand, and spirituality plus creativity. And wow, I want you to say more about that because I just love that idea.
Yeah, the one thing I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
if I can ask you, is I recently got into Reiki. If you could explain to the audience what Reiki is, because I don't want to, you're the expert, because a lot of people, I think, would benefit by this practice. So if you could
Yes.
just give like a 1 minute explanation, that would
I'd
be wonderful.
I'd love to. And by the way, I believe everybody should learn Reiki, even children. Um, when I was in and I'll just say this and then I'll give an explanation of Reiki. When I was in the temples of Egypt, and I take groups to Egypt for spiritual journeys, I saw many places where they had their hands above people, right, with the energy coming. And I also saw a place where Akhenaten was blowing into the children. And in the attunements with Reiki, we use the breath as well as the chi. So Reiki is Rei means universal life force, and ki Reiki is the Japanese word for chi. Reiki comes from Japanese tradition through a man named Mikao Yasui, who studied way far back. And if you get deep into Reiki, you discover that it's actually it didn't come from Mikao Yasui. It's always been on planet Earth, and we have a natural way of healing. And a way to think of it is an exchange of energy. It's an exchange of high, pure chi. So the Reiki practitioner is not using their energy. They're channeling the chi from that's in the world all around us all the time, and bringing it in kind of in a very intentional way, and helping you plug into an energetic wall socket so that your body can tap into its innate healing wisdom. So that's a simple way of saying it, but it is like getting an electrical charge or smoothing you out or clearing you out. Like if you run water through something, it will clear it out, right? So in the same way in Reiki, you're bringing energy in and you're moving it through the body in a very purposeful way and finding where are the blockages, where does the body need some help, and addressing that actually at all levels. So in Reiki, we always say if you have a physical dis-ease, and we always say dis-ease, not disease, right? If you have a physical dis-ease, it's always coming from emotional, mental, psychological, or even a spiritual imbalance. So Reiki addresses it at the deepest level in order to produce the concept of healing. Although we do not heal anybody, you heal yourself, right?
Excellent.
So,
Because,
mhm,
I always thought
mhm.
that every doctor should have a nutritionist, a massage therapist, and a Reiki master in their office, because you want to get more total healing. And for anybody out there who's not tried Reiki, I'm new to it. Because one of the things that I wanted to do with the movie is, before I got everybody on, and I wanted to make sure that they were real. So I said, okay, you have to, I'm not trying to get free things, but you got to give, you know, uh, two complimentary things, whatever you do so we can see if you're real and how it works. And there was one woman in Los Angeles who gave me this free Reiki thing, and I was just completely blown away. I said,
Yeah,
I will send everybody
yeah,
to humanly possible. What the heck is this thing? What just
yeah.
happened? It is
So
very powerful.
something else I want to say too is that there you can do distance Reiki, which people just don't understand, but it has to do with the collective conscious field of all that is, right? And also, if people are interested, you can Google and take a look. There's many places that are now having Reiki practitioners in the surgical when people are getting surgery. And there's pictures of it
Excellent.
where people are there and they're beaming the Reiki, they're holding the space. And I have a lot of clients that when they have surgery, they'll let me know. and I have a Reiki strike force. And we send distance Reiki and will support the person while they're having surgery. I have a physician who I won't name because I don't have permission to do that, who actually sends his clients to me before surgery because he discovered once they've had Reiki, they require less anesthesia and they heal faster. So something that's measurable with Reiki is the increase of the oxygen carrying capacity of the red blood cells. And if you know anything about health, you'll know that's a big deal, right? So, and the relaxation response, which,
Yeah, and the guy who wrote
yeah.
the book, The Relaxation Response, excellent book too.
So anyway, thank you. Obviously, it's one of my passions.
I could
And,
tell. Yes,
when I was directed into it, I always tell people I was excited, stupid, right? And maybe it's that spirituality and creativity. But once I learned about Reiki and learned it, I was like, I have to do this now. I have to do this for everybody. And lo and behold, it's obviously part of my why I'm here because people started coming immediately and it's never stopped. So, yeah. And I do teach Reiki for those that are listening. I do. And I have classes coming up in the fall.
and that's one of the many modalities. When when I was again preparing to do this documentary, I'm still going to do. I was invited over to Switzerland to see brain surgery the first time, and that blew me away. That blew me away. I thought that I would stand behind, that glass that you see, and everybody's sitting there watching. So I walk into one room, and they say, "Mr. Blake, strip down to your underwear, put on the gown, put on the shoes, put on the hat, wash your hands, don't touch anything, walk through the door." I'm like, just to stand behind the glass? I walk in there. I'm in the operating room. The anesthesiologist grabs me behind the arm, pulls me right into the surgery. I'm so close. I could touch the human brain. It beats. And I can tell you that there was odd spiritual things going on in that room, that brain was aware of every single thing in that room.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I said, that brain is aware of us. He goes, "Oh, absolutely. I could tell you when it's not going to like. We're going to do a little procedure. It's not going to like it. Watch the blood pressure go up. This person's knocked out. It shouldn't know. Watch." And all of a sudden it goes blip. And I said, how did it know to do that? He goes, "It is aware of everything in this room." And because it's European, they talk about it differently than they talk about it here. So afterward, he said, "Yeah, sometimes I have little back issues." And I said, "So what do you take for that?" He goes, "I never take the drugs I give people. I go to an acupuncturist and a Reiki master." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" This is like the head neuroanesthesiologist there at a major hospital in Geneva. And I was like, "You go to, oh, shoot, I'm signing up for acupuncture." That's it. If you're using it, I'm going to use it. So they have one foot further in the integrative healing. There's one for your audience. We don't call it alternative healing because we're not using it in place of anything else.
Right.
They call it integrative. So remember the term integrative because you will be corrected. So use the word integrative means you use them together. A lot of people like Western medicine because they have really great diagnostic tools.
Yeah.
And then the healing tools, they want to change. They don't want to use modern medicines, Western medicines, all their healing tools. Sometimes it's great, and sometimes they integrate. They want to use others as well. So
years ago I did Reiki in the hospital and came in under the pastoral section, and they called it complementary care. And complementary care, integrative, is absolutely right because we don't want to replace anything, but we want to complement it. We want to integrate it. We want to bring in the mind body. And because you're not just a liver or a heart, you're actually a whole being. And that to me, you being there watching that brain, I'm just like freaked out and excited at the same time. Like, oh my gosh, because I also I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. And, some of the things, and even in the energy work that I do with Reiki or the channeling work or anything, we know that the brain is aware of everything, whether that's conscious or subconscious, whether we say it's in the Akashic record, however you want to say it. There, we are absolutely conscious and aware beings. And man, that's powerful what you just said. I'm just blown away.
Well, the thing is that you hear, like a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend say stuff like that. I am telling you
I
firsthand
know.
right now, there was things going in that room that brain was aware when it was completely
Well,
unconscious
and I
of
got
me.
goosebumps. I was like, you can feel it, when there's that thing going on. Because I'll have people come to me and they'll go, Loretta, I don't know what's going on, but is there somebody in the room here? Like that awareness at some level, and yeah, yeah, pay attention. Yeah,
Yeah, well, one of the things that one of the terms that I used in the book when I mentioned a little bit about the spirituality, I said we live in a self-recording universe. I want you to think about this for a second. Where everything is recorded. You could look at a planet. You could see the size of the planet. You could tell where we are in the hydrogen helium ratio of it of the nuclear fission or fusion. You could tell how many atoms are in it, how far away it is, how hot it is, how big it is, and it might not even exist. If that
yeah,
should blow your mind,
yeah,
that should blow your mind. We live in a self-recording. Whatever did this wants us to work and find out. It doesn't want to, it's not putting blinders on us. It is saying, even like Jesus said, seek and you shall find. People need to know this. People need to know this, that whatever, we just don't believe anything. Just search, research. It's there. It's opening up to you nonstop. And I think that if one of my big frustrations on the planet is with all this fighting, I wish there were a place where we could get together and continually exchange ideas, because there's no one culture that has all the answers. We learn from each other. You can't replace the shamans in like Peru with maybe the shamans in Egypt or whatever
no,
they're called. We have all of this knowledge that we need to share with each other, and I think that's what podcasting is very medieval. Okay. The way they used to learn in medieval period is you would go get you traveling scholars, and that's kind of what I am on your show. So you invite the traveling scholars to your kingdom, and you sit around a table and you learn that way. That's how all the elite learned. So what happened is now podcasting is going back into the medieval period, but they're broadcasting it. So
yeah,
it's brilliant in a way where people can learn by not having to be in that kingdom. I could just watch that kingdom. So it's very interesting how podcasting is replacing education in this country at a drastic rate. So we're going back into the medieval period, but also going forward because of the technology. So you have a chance. The only thing that's missing is we're not eating turkey legs and drinking grog. That's it.
rats.
But
I was looking forward to that.
I know
I want to
I'm
toss the
waiting.
bones, right?
You have to promise me sometime you have to put that turkey legs and grog there. So we have to
Okay.
do officially. But you do know in the grog glasses, I'm going to be the professor right now. In the grog glasses, when you see them in all the pictures, most of the time we drank water and tea in those grog. They weren't drunk 24/7. Of course, Americans like to think that and say, it's like like your coffee cup. How many times have you drink water out of a coffee cup? Like every day, so I want people to take a look at that and say, no, they weren't drunk all the time.
I'm really glad to hear that.
but they did have those grog mugs, and they did have the turkey legs. That was a very big ceremony where you started. That was their hors d'oeuvres a lot of times. And so I'm waiting for one podcast to have those turkey legs on there. So I'm hoping
Yeah.
it's you. That would be amazing.
We'll do it. We're going to take a little station break. And this, of course, is the original Loretta Brown. And my guest today, I'm really enjoying, is Carl David Blake. And he's one of the co-authors of Quantum Activation, Transforming Obstacles into Opportunities, which, my goodness, Carl, if anyone can do that, it's you. And so we'll take a little station break and we'll be right back.
All right, all clear.
Great. So we're still live on YouTube. I am
Excellent.
enjoying this conversation so much. I'm just like talk, 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 right?
Oh no, I could talk to you forever. You're amazing. And it
I
really was, the Reiki was just really amazing. And I didn't know if I could see Reiki branching out into different types of modalities of Reiki, because there's some that do hovering hands and then others that do hands on for the
yes.
entire time. And
Back in the yeah, just a quick little history, right? Very quick. When Reiki got to the United States back in the 1970s, it was sort of it started to branch off, and it almost became tradition that each Reiki master had to come up with their own slight version of Reiki, and not everybody was being taught the same thing by uh, uh, Master Takata, right? Too much history there, but it branched out into where, and then it starts to mutate because Reiki has an adaptability to be able to become part of what it is that people do, to include their cultural things. So pure Reiki, Japanese Reiki, I teach traditional Reiki as well as Tibetan Reiki, the way of the fire dragon, which comes from Tibet and also has background into Egypt and Lemuria, Atlantis, and all of those kinds of things. So there are different versions of Reiki, and there's many people who think that you need to go beyond the basic 3 levels of Reiki in your training. I have my own opinions on that. Reiki, it's Japanese kanji, and if you take the Japanese kanji and you literally translate it, it literally means that which is of the spiritual nature up there rains to earth. It gets absorbed in the earth. It comes up in
And
the
we got you
rice,
back.
and we eat it.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
stand by.
That. Welcome back to the original Loretta Brown Show. I'm Loretta Brown. Find out more about me at ReikiOasis.com or the KKNW archives, where you can listen to these shows over and over, download them. We're on iTunes, Podcast One, Spotify, Audible. We're all over the place. So find us there, as well as the YouTubes are on the KKNW YouTube channel. My guest today, Carl David Blake, who is an amazing man. I'm really enjoying our conversation. The book that we're promoting today is Quantum Activation. He's one of the co-authors, Transforming Obstacles into Opportunities. Whew. Where are we at, Carl?
well, we were talking about the different modalities of Reiki, and I mentioned to you that before I did this book, that I was putting together a documentary on the human brain, because I really wanted to know the capacity. And then it just branched out into all of these other areas. What I wanted to do was to, ask some of these scientists, what can you do to enhance your brain as you get older?
Yes.
Is there a way to do that? And a lot of them said yes. So I was writing down, some of the information on how to do that. And then, like I said, when COVID hit, I decided we were do this book. We were going to do it after the movie. I said, hey, let's do it before it. There's a lot of people that kind of need that information, and to transform obstacles and opportunities. I want to make it clear, it's not always easy. Think, oh, I'm an expert, it's easy. It's kind of like working out. It's not easier for a person who is in good shape to continue working out. It's hard for them every day. They do that. It's hard for anybody who plays an instrument to keep practicing. It's hard for anybody who is a practitioner of Reiki or something else to continue the continuing education and stuff. So I want to make it clear that this stuff is not easy, and we all go through massive challenges in our lives. And these days, I feel like sometimes I'm in like a weird novel. That I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, if you would have told me like 3 years ago, there's going to be COVID, it's going to like just devastate the population, you're going to live in Salt Lake City, I'd be like, what? I wouldn't have believed all the stuff that's going on right now. So I think we have to use some type of methodologies to get us through and keep us positive, because like I said, I could get angry just like everybody else. Trust me, there's a lot of things that frustrate me in the world. I think one of the biggest things is what they're doing with the educational system. I'm
Mhm.
hoping that it reemerges, because it looks like they actually call these parents are getting together, and they're calling these things pod learning, from, I guess, from
Oh,
podcasting. And they're getting these kids, eight to 12, 14 kids together, and they're hiring a teacher, and they just teach our 14 kids. And they say, well, if you go to the school, private school, they cost all this money, but if each paid $10,000 and there's 12 kids, that's $120,000. You're going to get a pretty good teacher for that kind of money.
yeah, you
So
are.
there's a whole push against it, but right now they're saying, wow, so we could have visitors, we could do integrative teaching, we could bring I've seen them bring, heard of them bringing Reiki masters, massage therapy to these kids and everything, because there's a whole field of
Yeah.
massage even for infants, you know.
Yes.
So these modalities are really starting to get stirred up, and people are looking at the old ways of doing it, not to discredit it, but saying, wow, maybe we should get some more spirituality there in our school systems. Maybe we should start talking about it, because kids want to talk about that stuff. What are we doing here? Why am I on earth? What am I made of? Where is God? What is this stuff? And we have some answers to those things. We're just not discussing it. So I think it's so important for us to have these conversations, and then
Yeah.
hence podcasting.
I definitely agree with that. Kind of like what I was saying earlier, and I keep saying it every week on my show, is we have entered a new era, right? Call it an evolution of consciousness, call it the age of Aquarius, call it Bob. It doesn't matter. The point being that we're at a place where, like you say, I'm also with you. I think we need to begin by having conversations. Many people are in denial, right? Many people are very rigid in where they're at. Many people are, I'm going to say, stuck, or they want to go back. And the subtitle of your book, Transforming Obstacles into Opportunities. I'm looking at this pandemic as the big obstacle of the whole planet going boink. Like, okay, you guys have been moving forward in a certain way, and now that doesn't work. And so, talk a little bit about how do we transform obstacles into opportunities? What is the quantum recipe for moving forward?
One of the biggest things is education and communication.
Okay.
It's so important that we communicate with each other, because we're much more alike than separate. You know what I'm saying? If you go, all you have to do is, and I love the fact you go to Egypt. I want to be on one of those trips one day. But when you have to travel to see different people, and you start seeing all the similarities. I remember when I was in Prague. Was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago? And I said, I was texting a friend. You could text from there, and
Yes, you can.
and I was saying, you want to know something? I don't see one person on their phone chatting or texting with anybody else. These people actually like each other. It's really weird, because they pay attention to each other. And one of the things today is, I'm seeing this more and more. I'm seeing this in one direction, both directions, is people don't see value in other people unless, what can they do for me? And you have no idea the enormous value you see in other people. One of my big things is I like to have breakfast. Okay. My big thing is at breakfast with my friends. Like, are you obsessed with breakfast? I said, no, I see value in you having a meeting with me, and we're talking. And sometimes I've been on the, breakfast on the beach, especially down in Redondo Beach with my buddies. We'll talk 4 or 5 hours. And people aren't doing that anymore like
Yeah.
that. We're not seeing the value. Go out to a restaurant, you're not seeing the value with the other person on the other side of the table. And I think that we have to see the value in other people, and not just what they could bring to you. So what's happening right now, we're seeing the spiritual movement really doing that. And then we're seeing the other people not. So we're seeing a split, and no one knows where the split is going.
Yeah.
There are people that are just really like, you're seeing the obesity epidemic going, and then you're seeing these kids like 18, 20 years old in phenomenal shape. Like, you've never seen anybody like it, like 5%. I'm like, what is going on here? We were never in that good of shape when we were 20, and they're running marathons and doing this and going, geez, that's like off the charts. And then you see the rest of them, they have all of these disorders. So it's like, what's going on? I'm seeing a split. And as far as the obstacles, we have to communicate better. We have to see the value in other people. You have to see that's part of spirituality. You don't know what that other person knows. You don't know who that other person is. Like, you and I could be sitting waiting for an Outback restaurant next to each other, and we might not even talk, and look at us talk now.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely right.
You have to see that in other people. And just going, I haven't traveled enough, but I've seen enough where everywhere in the world, people love to communicate. They love to exchange ideas. They love to do that. And that's where the podcasting is coming in. But so I think it's great podcasting. I think it's great reading of like that. But if there's one message you get, see the value in other people. There's a whole spiritual past. We don't even know how far back they are. One of the things that I think on this planet is your job is you have to find your soul family, and they need you as much as you need them. Don't just look at what you can get out of them. Oh, I could go over here and I go to Greece and I have a place to stay when I go there. What do you bring? Look at that and think about that. And if there is an afterlife, and I'm telling you there's something after this, okay? When I walked into that room, in the surgical room, and all that weird stuff was going on, I'm telling you, there's like Shakespeare said, there's more things in heaven and earth than dreamt of in your philosophies, Horatio, than even dreamt of. So you might cut yourself off from something spiritually, and it could be deleterious to your soul. Be open to other people. And I didn't say stupid, but be open to other people. Look at them as value. Their value everywhere. And I wish people would see that.
Wow, I feel like you're activating my brain a lot right now, and I love it. But I'm thinking of a couple of things with this divisive narrative going on planet Earth, right? A lot of people, like I said, are getting really stuck, and you mention somewhere along the line about getting rid of toxic people, and I want you to talk more about that. But I'm also thinking about how when I was a child, we were taught stranger, stranger, beware, beware. And it's like, wait a minute, like you say, don't be stupid. But one of the great things about, because I lived in Saudi Arabia almost 9 years also, as well as traveling the whole world. And I am a big proponent on we are all human, but my goodness, we have different experiences. And that exchange of information is vitally important for us to truly understand. So if you could talk a little bit about toxic people, and I look at it like maybe you could open the doors to some different people. Anyway, please go ahead.
I do believe there's an energy transfer between people, massive. And I do believe there are those toxic. We'll call them toxic because that's one of the best ways to do it. You do not owe anybody a miserable life. People think, oh, I have to rough it out with this relative or that. You don't owe anybody a miserable life. You owe yourself the best life possible. And with that, you can bring other people a good life as well and enhance their lives. So this negativity is no difference if you put your hand on a stove. It's like it's that energy transfer from the stove to your hand is bad. Okay, if you have a heat, it could be good. So these people, when you look at the sociopath, psychopath, narcopath, narcissist, these people do not have good intentions, and they're everywhere. And people have heard me say this: get rid of the negative people out of your life. One of the things I did was I did this little video where I asked over 400 women, what is the most important thing you learned in the last 3 years of your life? And it was stunning on what they told me. I had no idea. I said, I had no idea you women were thinking about this during the day. So it's on my YouTube channel. But one of the things that was number one, and I said, I would not have guessed this in a billion years. The women said, no one ever told us how to love ourselves. And I was completely floored. I said, I thought because of feminism, you're walking around loving yourselves, kissing yourselves on the hand, thinking about how wonderful you are. She said, oh my God, no. They never taught us how to love ourselves. And I was like, that comes from some of the toxicity of when you're growing up. How many teachers said, I appreciate you students. How many teachers really, how many principals say that? Like, you're in this regimen thing. We're taught not to love ourselves. So that's a huge part of it. It's a very toxic part. Not what's wrong with appreciating yourself. If a kid now, when you used to daydream as a kid, I hate to tell you, that was meditating. Yeah. So we stopped kids from daydreaming. Now they're going adults, they're all messed up. And now they have to pay somebody to learn how to meditate. Who are the best meditators on the planet? Children. Children are experts. They have a PhD in meditation. So we unlearn something. Did you ever remember lying in the grass looking at the sky for hours?
Yes.
Excellent meditation. There are no swamis in India that can beat a kid lying in the grass looking at the sky. They know their brains. They know how to do this. So again, this toxicity is kept us out of our own natural way of healing ourselves. I mean, you can't go at work and say, I'm lying in the grass, you guys can figure out this problem, right? But you probably need to do that. Mm-hmm. You probably need to do that. There was you've been to San Francisco, I'm sure, right? Years ago, and I tell people about this, they don't even believe me. When I went to San Francisco right out of college, I stayed in a place called Stockton. I was sofa surfing, and Stockton was yucky, but I would drive into San Francisco, and I'm not making this up. You used to go to the parks, and businessmen in their briefcases, would be lying down taking naps in the park. Like dozens of them. Kids would be playing like guitar on blankets, and I'm going, this is like a scene out of a movie. And I said to a friend, we're never going to see this again. This beauty of everybody just kind of getting together in these parks, it was amazing. And I just used to love the vibe of San Francisco. It was hands down one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Something happened where we're in I don't have the answers, but I could tell you by valuing each other, and then looking, in and then communicating. We have to see that. Like, you've been everywhere in the world. You see people like everybody just wants to go to like a restaurant and talk and joke, and they have their own food, and they have their own their ways of doing things. One of the things about the dinner table, and here's like getting rid of toxic people, communicating. The dinner table is sacred everywhere in the world. If you go back to the medieval, everywhere in the world, every single culture. And once we've made that non-sacred, we've lost a massive portion of our culture and our education. When you bring that back again, like when I go to breakfast, it's not just to have eggs. I know how to make eggs. I can make pancakes too. It's to fellowship with people there. Even sometimes the waitress, I've had waitresses sit down at our table and talk, and say, oh my God, I was in Redondo Beach with my two buddies, and this woman stands up, she walks over to me, goes, I was listening to your entire conversation. I'm so sorry. It was just so interesting. I couldn't help it. I just had to admit it. And I said, that's okay. But that's one of the things that we've lost. We don't go out for dinner. Well, the famous saying is, you don't go out for dinner for what's on the table. You go out for dinner for what's in the chairs. Remember that, and we've lost a lot of that. So when you see other cultures are following, but when you see other cultures, they don't act like us. People think they do, they don't. Not everywhere. You have to go parts of the world. When you see people, they really appreciate each other. And it's so important to communicate. Like when you have a cup of coffee, I haven't been to Ethiopia, but I know a lot of them in Los Angeles, and I've been to their coffee ceremonies and stuff like that. It's very important. You pay attention to the culture and you pay attention to
Yes.
the people around you. It's a whole cultural aspect, and you appreciate, you thank everybody for bringing you the coffee, bringing this. It's we know this for the ones who travel, but I wish people would start seeing that podcasting is a yearning to go back to the dinner table or the table where meaning and conversation take place. Now you have to watch it on the on YouTube podcasting, and you should be doing this at home. You should be doing this. You should be inviting people, you know, and you're going to see podcasting. This is medieval. We're in the dark ages too, but it's being podcast. Look at, the dinner table is sacred. Please remember that always.
I love that so much. Having traveled the world, I just totally, and living in another part of the world, very important. Like you say, it is the fellowship. And in other places where I've been, people are like, will you come and have tea with us? Will you have, this piece of bread with us? And they are so thrilled, and their whole family will come, right? Like, you're just the best guest of honor. So we're down to about 1 minute. Where can people find more about you, and what would you like to close with?
Yeah. Well, you can find me at Carl David Blake Productions. That's my website, and there will be a link to the book. The book is on Amazon, and that's basically what I'm doing. I'm going to be directing a short film where a cute little girl reads the news, so she's going to change it up. So I've got a few other short films I want to do up here because I want to get acclimated to the movie making business up here. Then I want to hit that documentary I'm due. Yes, and quantum activation. Thank you for holding that up. I appreciate that. And I just had a wonderful time. You're just a wonderful person. I could feel the great energy coming through here.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And all to my listeners, thank you so much. Enjoy that big full moon. And oh my goodness, spread the love around. Let's start talking and eating together. Fellowship, quantum activation, transforming obstacles into opportunities. Blessings, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.